All right, so get this. We're diving into giants today.
Oh, wow.
I've always been fascinated by those stories.
Yeah.
Like, are they just myth?
Right.
Or could there be some truth to them?
It's a question that has haunted humanity for ages.
Yeah.
And the pile of sources you've given me, biblical passages, academic articles,
Oh, yeah.
even Wikipedia suggests we're in for quite the exploration.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're not setting out to prove giants roamed the earth,
Okay.
but to understand what these sources tell us about them.
Right.
And right off the bat, I'm wondering,
Yeah.
what even defines a giant? Is it just about being tall?
That's where it gets tricky.
Okay.
Being tall doesn't automatically make you a giant.
Okay.
At least not according to these sources. For instance, the Bible talks about this Egyptian warrior
Oh, wow.
that was over 7.5 feet tall.
Right.
But he's not labeled a giant.
Okay. So height alone isn't enough.
It seems that way.
But then how do we make sense of figures like Goliath? Everyone knows he was a giant.
Right.
But how tall was he really?
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Even the descriptions of Goliath's height vary wildly,
Really?
depending on which ancient manuscripts you consult.
Oh, wow.
He could be anywhere from a pretty tall for the time, 6'9", to a towering 9'9".
Wow. Talk about a range.
It is quite a range.
So we're already seeing that defining a giant isn't so simple.
No, it's not.
But there's got to be more to it than just height, right?
I think so.
What else makes these figures stand out in the sources?
You're hitting on a crucial point.
Okay.
The biblical giants, particularly those in the Old Testament,
Right.
weren't just tall.
Yeah.
They were powerful warriors,
Oh, okay.
described as mighty men.
Interesting.
The Hebrew term is gibborim,
Gibborim.
which emphasizes their strength and fearsome reputation.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm picturing those verses from Amos,
Right.
where God describes the Amorites as tall as cedars and strong as oaks.
Mm-hmm.
Not exactly the gentle giant vibe, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even scholars who downplay the literal height of those Amorites still acknowledge the comparison to mighty trees.
Right.
It suggests that being a giant in the biblical context was about more than just physical stature. It was about power, strength, and even a bit of intimidation.
Okay, so we're starting to get a clearer picture of what made someone a giant in these ancient texts. But were they all just lone figures?
Oh, no.
Or were there like giant communities?
Oh, there were definitely giant communities, or at least distinct groups.
Okay.
The Old Testament mentions several tribes of giants,
Oh, wow.
each associated with specific locations.
Interesting.
You've got the Amorites, the Imim,
Right.
Repharmin, Anakim.
Why?
It's like a whole family reunion of giants.
A giant family reunion.
Yeah.
Now, that's an image.
I know, right?
But seriously, if they were grouped like that, it makes you wonder, where did they come from? Were they all related somehow?
Now that's a question that has puzzled scholars for ages.
Yeah.
There are definitely connections suggested in the Bible,
Sure.
particularly links to the Nephilim mentioned before the flood.
Right, the Nephilim, those mysterious figures described as the offspring of sons of God and human women.
Mm-hmm.
I always found that passage a bit cryptic.
It's definitely one of those biblical head scratchers, but the link between the Nephilim and later giants, especially the Anakim, is pretty strong.
Okay.
Remember those spies sent into Canaan? They reported seeing Nephilim, specifically descendants of Anak.
So there's a possible lineage connecting pre-flood giants to those encountered generations later by the Israelites.
It seems so.
That's pretty wild.
It is.
And speaking of lineages, it's time we talk about the most famous giant of them all.
Oh, who's that?
Goliath.
Goliath.
Everyone knows the David and Goliath story, but I bet there's more to it than meets the eye.
I think you might be right.
What do the sources reveal about him?
Well, for starters,
Okay.
he wasn't just some random giant wandering the countryside.
Right.
Remember, Joshua drove the Anakim out of most of Canaan, but they clung to certain areas, including Gath, where Goliath was from.
Wait, so he could have been a descendant of those Anakim?
It's possible.
A direct link to those powerful giant tribes?
It's definitely possible. And there's another layer to this.
Okay.
One of your articles suggests Goliath might have had a hereditary pituitary condition.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Are we talking about a real medical explanation for his giant stature?
I think so.
Like something we can diagnose today?
Exactly.
Oh.
Acromegaly,
Okay.
which is often caused by a pituitary tumor, can lead to excessive growth, particularly in the hands, feet, and face.
Right.
And if you remember the descriptions of Goliath, they emphasize his heavy armor and massive spear.
Now that you mention it, it's like those details were meant to highlight just how enormous he was.
Exactly.
And could this condition explain why he needed a shield bearer to guide him?
That's what's fascinating about this theory.
Yeah.
Vision problems, especially loss of peripheral vision, are common with pituitary tumors.
Interesting.
If Goliath had that,
right,
it could explain why he was vulnerable to David's sling.
Okay.
He might not have even seen it coming.
Okay, that adds a whole new dimension to the story.
It does.
And it gets even more intriguing when you factor in Goliath's family.
Oh, his family.
Right. The Bible mentions he had giant relatives.
Really?
Some killed by David's own family.
Wow.
There's even one described as having 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot.
Oh, wow.
A condition known as polydactyly.
Polydactyly.
So not only might Goliath's giant stature be explained by a medical condition, but it seems to have run in his family.
Yeah.
We're talking about a hereditary giant dynasty here.
It certainly paints a picture of a family predisposed to gigantism.
Yeah.
Whether through a genetic condition like acromegaly or some other factor we don't yet understand.
Right.
But here's where it gets even more compelling.
Okay.
We've been focused on the Bible.
Right.
But you also included sources outside the biblical text.
Oh, yeah.
That mention giants.
You're talking about those Egyptian texts.
Yes,
right?
Yes, exactly.
I'm curious. What do they say about giants?
Okay.
Does it line up with what we see in the Bible?
That's the million-dollar question.
Okay.
And while we should approach these sources with a healthy dose of skepticism, it's fascinating to see how other cultures viewed giants. Take, for example, the Egyptian execration texts.
Execration texts.
These were basically curses written on clay figurines or bowls.
Oh, wow.
Aimed at their enemies.
So like ancient voodoo dolls.
Pretty much.
That's pretty intense.
It is.
And guess who pops up in these texts?
Let me guess. Giants.
The Anakim.
The Anakim.
The Egyptians clearly saw them as a threat.
Okay.
Placing them right in Canaan.
Yeah.
Which lines up with the biblical accounts. Wait, so it wasn't just the Israelites who had to deal with giants?
It seems not.
Other cultures knew about them.
Right.
Even feared them.
Absolutely.
It adds another layer of credibility to the idea that giants weren't just a biblical invention.
Yeah.
They were a reality that various cultures had to contend with.
That's right.
And there's another Egyptian text,
a
craft of the scribe, that describes the shasu, possibly the Anakim, as being 4 or 5 cubits tall.
Well, cubits.
Okay, I gotta ask.
What's that?
How tall is that in normal measurements?
Well, Egyptian cubits were longer than the standard Hebrew cubit.
Okay.
We're talking about the shasu being anywhere from 6'10" to a whopping 8'7".
Whoa, almost 9 feet tall.
Yeah.
Suddenly, those biblical accounts of giants don't seem so outlandish.
Exactly.
These external sources provide some historical context.
They do?
Suggesting that giants weren't just a figment of someone's imagination. This is blowing my mind.
I know, it's really fascinating.
But let's address the elephant.
Okay.
Or rather, the giant in the room.
Right.
Could giants really have existed? I mean, wouldn't there be some scientific limitations to how big a human or any creature could get?
That's where science and myth collide.
Yeah.
One of the main arguments against the existence of extremely large humans is something called the square cube law.
Square cube law.
Think of it like this.
Okay.
Imagine trying to build a skyscraper out of toothpicks.
Right.
It wouldn't work, right?
Yep.
As things get bigger, they need proportionally stronger support.
Right.
That's the square cube law in a nutshell.
Okay, I'm starting to get it.
Okay.
So if you just scaled up a human to, say, 9 feet tall, their bones and muscles wouldn't be strong enough to support their weight.
Precisely. However, there are some interesting counter-arguments.
Like what?
The fossil record shows us that size limits aren't always what we think they are.
You're talking about those giant prehistoric creatures, right?
Exactly.
Like those massive dinosaurs.
Exactly. Take the Meganeura, for instance.
Meganeura?
This extinct dragonfly had a wingspan of over 2.5 feet.
Wow.
Scientists are still debating how insects that large were even possible, given what we know about oxygen intake and body size.
Right. So even with the square cube law, nature seems to find ways to push the boundaries.
That's right.
Maybe giants, even those exceeding 9 feet tall, aren't entirely out of the question.
It's certainly possible.
Wow.
The square cube law might be a general guideline.
Okay.
But the diversity of life,
Right.
both past and present, shows us that there's still much we don't know about the limits of biological possibility.
This is all so incredible.
It really is fascinating.
But I have to admit, the more we uncover, the more questions I have.
Sure.
Did those different giant tribes have a common ancestor? Could there be a genetic basis for their size?
Those are excellent questions.
Yeah.
And I think we'll find even more clues as we delve deeper into these sources.
I can't wait.
I'm excited to see where this takes us.
This deep dive has been mind-blowing so far.
It has been really interesting.
And I have a feeling we're just getting started.
Oh, yeah.
Stay tuned, listeners, because there's much more to uncover in the world of giants.
I can't wait to see what else we learn.
Wow. We really covered some ground in the last part.
It did.
From Goliath's potential pituitary condition to those Egyptian texts mentioning the Anakim. It's like piecing together a giant puzzle.
And as we dig deeper, you'll notice these sources offer different perspectives on giants.
Right.
It's not just about their size, but also their place in the world.
Okay.
Literally and figuratively.
You're right.
Yeah.
Some sources seem to focus on the physical.
Right.
Like, how did they get so big? But others go beyond that.
Yeah.
Almost treating giants as symbols.
Exactly.
Or metaphors.
And even within the physical explanations, there are different schools of thought.
Yeah.
That article about Goliath potentially having a pituitary condition, remember?
Right.
It tries to find a scientific explanation for gigantism.
I gotta admit.
Yeah.
I find that approach really intriguing.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
It's like we're bridging ancient stories with modern medical knowledge.
Exactly.
But could a condition like that really explain all the giant accounts throughout history?
It's a valid question.
Yeah.
And it leads us to those sources that delve into the symbolic side of giants.
Okay.
They might represent strength,
Okay.
danger, chaos, things that go beyond just physical size.
That's what I find so cool about this topic.
Yeah.
It's not just about measuring bones.
Right.
It's about understanding how different cultures use the idea of giants to represent all sorts of concepts.
Precisely.
Right.
Giants can embody so many things. The untamed forces of nature. The challenges we face in life, almost like they embody those bigger-than-life obstacles.
I'm thinking about those myths where giants are linked to natural disasters.
Right.
It's like they represent those powerful forces we can't control.
Yeah.
Makes you think about the giants we face in our own lives.
That's a great connection.
Yeah.
We might not battle literal giants today,
Right.
but we all have metaphorical giants to overcome fear, doubt, injustice.
Right.
These can feel as huge and daunting as any physical giant.
It's like those stories are giving us a blueprint for facing our challenges.
I like that.
Even if they seem impossible.
Right.
We can find a way, like David facing Goliath.
Exactly.
Those stories remind us
Yeah.
that even the seemingly impossible can be overcome.
They do.
But there's another layer to this connection
Okay.
between giants and knowledge.
Oh, yeah, I noticed that too.
In some traditions, giants are like keepers of ancient wisdom. Or even forbidden knowledge.
Think about the Greek myth of Prometheus,
Okay.
who stole fire from the gods and gave it to humanity.
Right.
He's often depicted as a giant, representing the acquisition of knowledge.
Right.
That's both powerful and dangerous.
It's like that saying, knowledge is power, but it's also responsibility.
That's a good one.
And in some of the sources,
Yeah.
it seems like giants represent that tension.
Right.
The allure and potential danger of knowledge.
They're right. And it goes even further.
Okay.
Some sources suggest giants challenge our existing knowledge systems.
What do you mean?
Like, if they really existed,
Right.
what does that mean for what we think we know about history, biology,
Right.
even the Bible?
Whoa, that's a big one.
It is.
It's like those giants are shaking the foundations of our understanding.
And that can be both unsettling and exciting.
Yeah.
It forces us to question what we think is true
Right.
and be open to new possibilities.
Okay, so we've got giants as symbols of strength, chaos, knowledge.
Yeah.
What else should we be looking for as we continue our deep dive?
One more thing that stands out
Okay.
is the connection between giants and the divine.
Okay.
In many traditions, they're either offspring of the gods or have some sort of divine link.
Right, like the sons of God who fathered the Nephilim.
Exactly.
It's a mysterious passage.
It is.
But it definitely connects giants to the realm of the divine.
And it makes you wonder,
Yeah.
how were giants viewed?
Right.
Were they demigods with superpowers?
Right.
Or abominations that messed with the natural order?
I'm seeing both perspectives reflected in the sources.
Yeah.
Some portray them as awe-inspiring,
Right.
while others depict them as monstrous and destructive.
That duality
Yeah.
is part of what makes them so captivating. They
Yeah.
straddle the line between human and divine,
Right.
embodying the best and worst of both. Like, they represent both the potential for greatness and the potential for downfall.
This is getting pretty deep.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And if we connect that to the bigger picture, it makes you think about the role of giants in how we understand spirituality and the nature of the divine.
You're spot on.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about those stories where giants challenge the gods or try to seize their power.
Right.
It reflects a human desire to transcend our limits, to reach for something beyond our grasp.
That raises some pretty big questions.
It does.
Are we meant to strive for godhood, or are there lines we shouldn't cross?
Those are questions worth pondering.
Right.
It seems this deep dive into giants is really a deep dive into ourselves and our place in the cosmos.
You're telling me I'm starting to see how these ancient stories are still relevant today.
Me too.
But we've got more to explore, right?
We do.
What's next on our giant agenda?
We've covered biblical accounts and some external sources.
Right.
But there's one more area worth exploring before we wrap up.
Okay.
The Book of Enoch.
The Book of Enoch.
Yeah.
I've heard of it, but I'm not really familiar with it.
Yeah. Okay.
What makes it so special?
Well, it's considered apocryphal.
Apocryphal?
Meaning it's not part of the official Bible.
Okay.
But it offers a detailed account of giants.
Oh, wow.
Particularly their origins in nature.
Okay, now I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
What does the Book of Enoch have to say about giants that we haven't already covered?
It delves much deeper into the Nephilim and their offspring.
Okay.
Remember that brief mention in Genesis about sons of God coming down to mate with human women?
Yeah, it definitely left me wanting more details.
Well, the Book of Enoch fills in those gaps.
Yeah?
It describes the Watchers,
The Watcher.
a group of angels who rebelled against God and came down to earth.
And these Watchers are the sons of God who fathered the Nephilim.
That's the narrative presented in the Book of Enoch.
So we're talking about angels having children with humans.
That's right.
Wow.
These angels, driven by lust, taught humanity forbidden knowledge, including magic, astrology, and warfare.
Wow, so the Nephilim weren't just giants physically.
Right.
But they also inherited this powerful knowledge from their angel fathers.
Exactly.
And according to the Book of Enoch, these Nephilim, in turn, fathered a race of giants who caused chaos and destruction across the earth.
Right.
It's starting to sound like an epic movie.
I know, right?
Angels, giants, forbidden knowledge. No wonder this book has captured people's imaginations.
And it helps explain why the flood is so often connected with the destruction of giants in various traditions.
Right.
The Book of Enoch portrays the flood as a divine judgment to cleanse the earth of the corruption caused by the giants and their angelic origins.
So it wasn't just about punishing humanity.
It seems not.
But also about wiping out this hybrid race that was disrupting the natural order.
Precisely.
Okay.
And it ties back to the idea that giants represent a transgression of boundaries.
Okay.
A dangerous mixing of realms.
Right.
They embody chaos that threatens the balance of creation.
I'm also struck by how the Book of Enoch portrays those fallen angels, the Watchers.
Right.
They're not just rebellious.
Yeah.
They're driven by lust and a thirst for power.
Right.
Almost like they're trying to play God.
You've hit on a key aspect of their character.
Okay.
They lust after human women.
Right.
And seek to establish their own dominion on Earth.
Interesting.
It's a narrative that echoes other myths and legends.
Right.
Where divine beings overstep boundaries and attempt to usurp the power of the creator.
And their offspring.
Yeah.
The Nephilim seem to inherit that same rebellious nature and hunger for power. It's like a cycle of transgression that ultimately leads to the catastrophic flood.
It's a fascinating exploration of the darker impulses within both humanity and the divine.
Right.
It raises profound questions about the nature of temptation, the consequences of disobedience, and the fragility of the created order.
But even amidst all this talk of corruption and judgment, I sense a glimmer of hope in the Book of Enoch.
You're absolutely right.
Wouldn't you say?
The Book of Enoch isn't just a cautionary tale about the perils of giants and transgression. It also contains prophecies and visions that offer a glimpse of a future where righteousness triumphs.
Like those passages about the arrival of a Messiah?
Exactly.
A righteous judge who will restore order and justice to the world?
It's almost as if the darkness of the giants sets the stage for a brighter future.
Yeah.
And those passages often use language and imagery that we find in later biblical texts, especially in the New Testament. This suggests that the Book of Enoch, despite being excluded from the official canon, played a role in shaping early Christian thought.
It's like a bridge connecting the Old Testament and the New Testament, offering a unique perspective on sin, judgment, and ultimately redemption.
And it reinforces the idea that the story of giants isn't just confined to the past. It speaks to the ongoing battle between good and evil. Between order and chaos that continues to unfold in our world today.
It's as if those giants are still with us. Metaphorically speaking. Representing the challenges and temptations we grapple with. As individuals and as a society.
And just like those ancient heroes who confronted literal giants, we're also called upon to confront the giants in our own lives. Those forces that threaten to overwhelm us or lead us astray.
Wow, this deep dive has been an incredible journey.
It really has.
We've explored biblical accounts, Egyptian curses, the square cube law, and the enigmatic Book of Enoch.
It's been quite a journey.
I feel like we've uncovered a whole hidden world.
And throughout it all, we've seen how the idea of giants has gripped the human imagination for centuries. Inspiring awe, fear, and a profound sense of wonder. It makes you realize that these stories still have something to teach us today.
I absolutely agree. It's not just about literal giants, but about the metaphorical giants we all face. The challenges, the temptations, the seemingly impossible obstacles.
And as we wrap up our exploration, I encourage you to keep thinking about the insights we've uncovered. Look for those giants in your own life. Those things that seem daunting, but might also hold the potential for growth and transformation.
You know, it's funny.
What's that?
We set out to explore the world of giants. But we ended up exploring so much more. History, mythology, spirituality, even our own personal journeys.
That's the beauty of a deep dive. It's about connecting seemingly disparate pieces of information, exploring diverse perspectives, and ultimately broadening our understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
It's been a truly thought-provoking experience.
It has.
I hope our listeners are feeling just as inspired to keep exploring, keep questioning. And keep diving deep into the world of ideas.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey.
It's been a pleasure.
All right, we're back and ready to tackle the Book of Enoch. It sounds like we're about to enter some pretty mysterious territory.
It does.
Kind of like stepping into an ancient library filled with secret scrolls.
It definitely has that aura of mystery. But remember, even though it's not part of the official Bible, the Book of Enoch was a significant text in its time, influencing early Jewish and Christian thought.
So it's like peeping into a different way of understanding the world.
Exactly.
And from what we discussed earlier,
it
seems like this book fleshes out those cryptic hints in Genesis about the origins of giants. Those sons of God become the Watchers. A group of rebellious angels who fathered the Nephilim and the Nephilim. Those offspring of angels and humans are depicted as more than just physically large. They possess forbidden knowledge, magic, and warfare skills passed down from their angelic fathers.
That's a crucial point.
The
Book of Enoch seems to suggest that the real threat posed by giants wasn't just their physical strength, but their capacity to disrupt the natural order through their actions and the knowledge they possess.
I'm thinking about those parts where the Nephilim are said to have taught humans things like astrology, enchantments, and even how to forge weapons of war. It's like they unleashed a torrent of chaos and violence upon the world.
And that's where the flood comes in. According to the Book of Enoch, it wasn't just about wiping out humanity for their sins, but also about purging the world of this corrupt hybrid race and restoring balance.
It's almost like hitting the reset button on creation.
Yeah.
to undo the damage caused by these transgressive beings.
And it highlights a recurring theme we've encountered throughout our deep dive.
Okay.
The idea that giants represent a blurring of boundaries.
Okay.
A dangerous fusion of realms.
Right.
That should remain separate.
Right.
They embody a kind of cosmic disorder that threatens the very fabric of creation.
I'm also struck by how the Book of Enoch portrays those fallen angels.
Yeah.
The Watchers. They're not just rebellious.
Right.
They're driven by lust and a thirst for power, almost like they're trying to play God.
You've hit on a key aspect of their character.
Okay.
They lust after human women
Right.
and seek to establish their own dominion on Earth.
Wow.
It's a narrative that echoes other myths and legends, where divine beings overstep boundaries and attempt to usurp the power of the Creator.
And their offspring,
Yeah.
the Nephilim, seem to inherit that same rebellious nature.
Right. And hunger for power.
It's like a cycle of transgression that ultimately leads to the catastrophic flood. It's a fascinating exploration of the darker impulses within both humanity and the divine.
Yeah.
It raises profound questions about the nature of temptation, the consequences of disobedience, and the fragility of the created order.
But even amidst all this talk of corruption and judgment, I sense a glimmer of hope in the Book of Enoch.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
The Book of Enoch isn't just a cautionary tale about the perils of giants and transgression.
Okay.
It also contains prophecies and visions that offer a glimpse of a future where righteousness triumphs.
Like those passages about the arrival of a Messiah.
Exactly.
A righteous judge who will restore order and justice to the world.
It's almost as if the darkness of the giants sets the stage for a brighter future.
And those passages often use language and imagery that we find in later biblical texts, especially in the New Testament.
This suggests that the Book of Enoch, despite being excluded from the official canon, played a role in shaping early Christian thought. It's like a bridge connecting the Old Testament and the New Testament.
Exactly.
Offering a unique perspective on sin, judgment, and ultimately redemption.
And it reinforces the idea that the story of giants isn't just confined to the past. It speaks to the ongoing battle between good and evil, between order and chaos, that continues to unfold in our world today.
It's as if those giants are still with us, metaphorically speaking,
Mm.
representing the challenges and temptations we grapple with
Right.
as individuals and as a society.
And just like those ancient heroes who confronted literal giants, we're also called upon to confront the giants in our own lives.
Right.
Those forces that threaten to overwhelm us or lead us astray.
Wow. This deep dive has been an incredible journey.
It really has.
We've explored biblical accounts, Egyptian curses, the square cube law, and the enigmatic Book of Enoch.
It's been quite a ride.
I feel like we've uncovered a whole hidden world.
And throughout it all, we've seen how the idea of giants has gripped the human imagination for centuries. Inspiring awe, fear, and a profound sense of wonder.
It makes you realize that these stories still have something to teach us today.
I absolutely agree.
It's not just about literal giants, but about the metaphorical giants we all face.
Exactly.
The challenges, the temptations, the seemingly impossible obstacles.
And as we wrap up our exploration, I encourage you to keep thinking about the insights we've uncovered.
Sure.
Look for those giants in your own life. Those things that seem daunting, but might also hold the potential for growth and transformation.
You know, it's funny.
What's that?
We set out to explore the worlds of giants. But we ended up exploring so much more.
We did.
History, mythology, spirituality, even our own personal journeys.
That's the beauty of a deep dive.
It is.
It's about connecting seemingly disparate pieces of information. Exploring diverse perspectives. And ultimately broadening our understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
It's been a truly thought-provoking experience.
I agree.
I hope our listeners are feeling just as inspired to keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the world of ideas.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey.
It's been my pleasure.